Hey guys, it's Jason Lee back again with Legacy Matters. I've done a few interviews, a couple of 10-minute, 15-minute segments with Matt to talk about both growth and how to manage growth as a business owner, how to create a business that's also a ministry and or a mission-driven business, which I think he does better than anybody I've met. And then our third part of our series is something that is more of a passion project that he's now created. And it resonated with my heart the first time I overheard him talk about this, because again, it just goes to show you how God can take what you're working on, meaning your business, build a foundation for something, and then inside of that foundation, He can say, "Look what I'm going to do now." Right? I've created something that is going to go out and transcend not just business, but changing people's lives, putting people in a position for their entire livelihood to change, right? Because I think when you look at where we're sitting, you said something earlier when you were talking about how you grew up and you were raised in an environment that set you up for success, parents that gave you the infrastructure that you could go work from. But I think you've developed a passion project that's taking people that didn't have that. They are actually probably brought up in a world of chaos, and that can create generations of chaos, or it's getting them out of the chaos and into a new environment with a new hope for life. And you basically create an entire new, we talk about generational curses. You stop that line through that. And that's an amazing concept. It's a phenomenal concept. So tell me a little bit about this project that you're working on.
So we've obviously been doing social responsibility programs and helping ministries over the last 6 years. And we were just approached by a few foundations over the last 3 or 4 months that give to a lot of these nonprofits and people coming through these second chance programs, human trafficking, coming out of prison, coming out of homelessness or whatever, trying to find their way, getting training for jobs and things like that. And what these nonprofits are seeing is that, or the foundations that are actually funding all these programs, is these people are getting rehabbed, getting through jobs, maybe getting some training. Maybe the training's not actually needed in the job market, but they've been sold that this is good training. And then they're like, where's my job? There's no job to be found. And then they fall into a nebulous.
Right.
Or some lady coming out of human trafficking ends up in a warehouse with a scumbag Fuhrman who then triggers her back into, this other life. And so there's about 5,000 people a year in Houston that are coming through these programs and falling into this kind of this dark hole of, and then what happens?
They do all this work to get them lifted,
and then they go into this dark hole, and then they shift. They just move to a different nonprofit to help them. Right. And then the cycle happens again, and then they shift again. And so they were like, man, this is an issue. It's been going on for 4 years. And so we mapped. I was like, okay, let's whiteboard this. This is how I see it. But I see us mapping out our 600 client base, right? I see us mapping out all of these ministries, and then we have to string these networks together to make sure people are getting to the right place, building resumes, doing predictive index, doing strength finding, dream management. How does all that work? And the parental strategy that we do for our own kids that these people have never gotten in their entire lives. Right. You start wrapping them into that funnel, and then it's intentional connection. Right. Hey, I've got someone who's come through. They're phenomenal, and these people need $18 to $20 an hour job to just keep up with the inflation. Guess what? If you take a guy who's just come out of homelessness and maybe was a drug slinger, and you're like, all right, here's your $14 an hour job, and they can't keep up. Guess what? They head back to the streets and start slinging dope or whatever. But if you can get them to that $18 to $20 an hour range, and they're locked in and they see the future of potential growth, then boom, you've got someone. And then you rechange that person's entire life, and maybe they got kids or whatever. And so there's this huge opportunity to be strategically focused on those connections actually happening. There's a lot of this, you just go find it. Go figure it out. Like when we grew up, for our jobs, go to college. Great, okay. Get a degree. Okay, then what? By the grace of God, you maybe got into a gym. Some guy just happened to say, hey, I'm hiring for the Port of Miami. And by the grace of God, he does open those windows. I'm not saying those windows don't not open. They do appear, but you can put people in a position to accelerate those connections faster.
Well, to
right?
your point though, too, a lot of our, and this is just fact, but who you know, how you know them, and then your circle, or the circles that your family's associated with, or where your upbringing, or the school that you went to, all of those things play an impact. They have a huge impact, right? Meaning, and I'll give you a great example. I grew up with a single mom, and I was out acting foolish at an early age, and I did a lot of dumb stuff because I had the freedom to do that. But at the end, though, I was this. So I'm in that situation where, if you looked at it from an outside looking in, you would see, okay, well, this kid was set up because there was no male role model. All those stories that you hear, but the saving grace and all that was I didn't have a mom who, because she was a single mom, turned to doing the wrong things to take care of our family, or got into drugs to deal with the stress. It was none of that. I grew up with a single mom who worked 3 jobs, was above board the whole time. And so when I was out doing dumb stuff, I wasn't brought back into a culture of chaos. I was brought back into a culture of love, and let's help you get through this stuff and get you to, even though you don't have a man to pour into you, we're going to figure out a way to get you there. We're going to get you there. And so a lot of the times, though, that's what we set these people up, and then they go back to the world, and then they go, okay, and then who are they going to go see? The uncle that sells drugs in the neighborhood, or the person that they came from? They don't have that support system. So you can do all this work to set them up, and then now they go back to the exact same environment they were in. Whereas now you're saying, hey, why don't we build the infrastructure that puts
let's
people,
get them all
people there so they have that person.
Let's build build their resumes, and maybe this thing manifests into what's called the Rise Initiative. But we do this massive conference, 1-day conference, where you bring them in and you take them through predictive index and strength finders, and you actually bring them through an assembly line where they unlock what they think they may be good at.
Right.
And then you've got companies there to receive them. And,
right.
It's all like you do it intentionally. And
so are there companies that have raised their hand and said,
we've got a couple, that are interested. So we just got this started 3 months ago.
Okay.
And we've just got funding a month ago. So
it's actually as a nonprofit, so you're able to go get funding.
Yeah, 501c3 with nonprofit status. So we can take funds from foundations, from individuals. They can get the tax benefit, and then we can and we have two employees working on it right now full time.
Fantastic.
So it's
awesome.
the funnel is being spooled as we speak.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm listening to this, I'm a business owner, or I want to put it in the hands of somebody who owns and operates a company, and to empower them to say, maybe I should consider this type of, let's just list them out. Construction, massive problem in workforce. We have a massive labor force shortage, right? Like there's just not enough people to do trade craft positions. I would imagine you know this more than I know a fraction of, but craft positions and trade positions across every industry, whether it be oil and gas, maritime, I'm sure that there's ways to get these people positioned to come in and step into roles that we just don't. We have a manpower shortage as a nation. So how do you go out and inspire a company to inherently take on this type of risk? What would you say to them?
I would say we're of the 5,000 that are coming through. We're going to be sifting through those, right, to find the diamonds in the rough, and those who are vocationally can actually do the work, and so there is going to be a vetting process to this, right?
Great.
We'll take on the risk as the employer, as the employer. So we'll actually contract them to these companies as a try before you buy type environment.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
Now you're not even taking the risk with the person on. You're just saying, hey, I want to give this person a second chance. So now you get to try them out.
Right.
And then if you like them, then you hire them full time.
Fantastic.
And if you don't like them, then we just pull them back and find you someone new. So we can open up these portals in a way that's pretty powerful for companies looking for people, and for people looking for a second chance.
Nice.
So,
and then if you were to think in terms of the impact that this has from because there's a couple of different places you get impact. You get impact in that person, but but then you also get impact from a financial perspective in the organization because you're solving that problem. Then what's the communal impact down to our level for as if I'm listening to this going, okay, well, why would I want to get behind communicating this story to other people, and how does this impact me if I'm not the person hiring or I'm not the person who needs the job? How does this impact us as a society, in your opinion?
I truly believe the vocation of work, if people are working in a job that they have the strengths for and they have a purpose and passion and the dignity at work, I truly believe you can architect like almost like a heaven on earth. People can't wait to get to work. They're excited to be there and the day suddenly ends.
Awesome.
And if you do that at scale, I mean, I think a lot of your crime, you'll see massive crime depletion, right? The desperation of vocation goes away. Drug hustlers maybe don't need to go sling the dope. They're actually doing something legally that makes them happy.
Money. Yeah, right. And they
so,
enjoy.
And if you do it over and over and over again, you can pull all these people off the street, and you're architecting their destiny. You're helping put them into a vocation that will accelerate them for the rest of their lives, and eventually their kids and their kids' kids. So I think if you can find work that you find true joy in, it solves a lot of problems. There's a lot of peripheral problems that get solved on the outskirts.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great insight. And Matt, I would hope that our time in this discussion is something that I can use through this platform to get into hands of other people, and then that can create a multiplying effect, so that we can hopefully have and start to inspire others to perhaps reach out to you guys and figure out how they can get involved.
That'd be awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.